We are live already. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining us. Um, yeah, we're gonna start a bit early. Although we've got like 2 minutes more until 8, but we just wanna use this opportunity to welcome people on the platform before we start going. Yeah, Bernard Wave, I can see you. Thank you for being on the platform. To be nice, if you're watching us, to be nice for you to tell us where you're watching us from, and probably why you are here. Probably you're going for a scholarship and PhD. You're interested in masters, whatever it is. Yeah, Marachi, we can see you. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the platform today. Thank you very much, guys. If you can just tell us where you are joining us from, that would be nice. Yeah, today we are going to be having a virtual hangout. Watching from Nigeria. Thank you, Amarachi. You're welcome to the platform. Yeah, I know that most of the people that we are going to be having on board today are going to be watching us live from Nigeria. You guys are all welcome. So hopefully this is going to be an interactive section. It's going to be useful, hopefully, for you and for every other person out there. So thank you for coming on board. So just a quick breakdown of what we are going to be doing today. So actually, we are going to spend first couple of minutes interacting with scholars from Cambridge and as well as University of Toronto, asking them to share their journey, their experience from being in Nigeria, going through whatever it is that a typical Nigerian will go through up to the point of getting to where they are today. Yeah, Grace, we can see you. You're watching us from YouTube. Hello, I'm watching from Abuja. Thank you. You're welcome, Grace. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to take your questions, and then at the end, we'll bring in some guests who want to interact with you live on the Hangout. So that's why we've said it's a virtual Hangout. So it's not like a presentation where just we will be talking to you and you won't be able to talk to us. So we are going to share a link along the line to bring you on board to join us in what we are doing. So before we get started, I would just like to kind of introduce what we are doing using a video link. So enjoy this.
They say everyone has a story.
Has a story.
Story is truth.
My story is haunting.
My story is poetic.
I'm from the earth where it's green.
My story is bold.
Excellent first kill.
My story is resistance.
Our stories
Are ready to be told.
Okay, so the last statement from that video is our story is ready to be told. Thank you, Onyewan, for joining us from Enugu, Nigeria. You're welcome to the platform. So the first thing we're going to be doing is that I'm going to just run the presentation. The presentation is going to be on what AODI, the Africa for a Dream Initiative, which is bringing you this particular program, is about, and every other thing you need to know about the whole thing we'll be doing today. Thank you. Hello, Joseph. Joseph from Lagos, Nigeria. You're welcome. I can see you, Joseph. Adana, you're welcome. I can see you, Adana. Thank you for coming on the show. Yeah, so we're going to move straight into the presentation. I'm going to come back later to you guys. I'm going to come back to your charts, and we'll try to look at every other thing we are doing right there. Thank you, and stay tuned. Okay, so like I said before, today we're talking about taking the right steps in the right direction, grooming for successful overseas admission, scholarship, and wherever it is about the application and the application process and the whole of that. So first, I would like to introduce you and tell you more about the Africa of Our Dream initiative, which is actually conceived. It was conceived in 2017 and then launched officially in 2018. The main aim of Africa of Our Dream initiative is to empower through education as well as look at capacity building. Our vision and mission is to build a new Africa where individuals will thrive and have access to the necessary things of life by promoting, supporting, and investing in health, education, opportunities, as well as in human capital for sustained prosperity. And the only way we can actually do this is by finding a way to educate the masses, which is why AODI is focusing on education, using that to empower all of us. So you can actually be a part of the foundation. You can be a voting member of the foundation. You can also be a non-voting membership. For voting membership is strictly under application. The foundation will have to advertise for position for you to come on board as a trustees. But for non-voting membership, we have the ambassadorial members, where you come in as a facilitator, help us to facilitate some of our projects. You can become a volunteer or an associate membership. So if you visit our website, you'll be able to get more details as to what being a facilitator means, being a volunteer, being an associate member entails. So our key activities are mentorship, partner projects, as well as getting you informed. Under mentorship, we try to mentor secondary school students, undergrad, masters, and PhD, and help them to fast track their dreams. And then when you look at Partner Africa projects, we try to establish some linkage between overseas institutions as well as the universities we have back in Africa. Currently, we have two kind of projects going on under the Partner Africa project. One is that every year or every term, we do send through a collaboration we have with Covenant University in Nigeria. We send some scholars from Cambridge University to go to Covenant University, interact with their researchers, exchange ideas, and then be able to see how research collaboration can actually emanate from that. And also we are trying to also form collaboration linkages from researchers in universities in Africa with those in overseas. So with respect to getting you informed, we usually organize a series of outreach program, workshop, seminar and training. And just stay in the lookout. In less than 2 weeks from now, we are going to be launching an info COVID essay competition where you can win as much as 100,000 naira just for writing an essay with regard to the COVID-19 pandemic that is going on. So what does the mentoring scheme, which is actually what we're going to be talking about today, covers? So we'll be giving you career tips. This is just what the mentoring scheme covers entirely. Career tips, guides to grab distance and online learning platform, preparing you ahead of graduation if you are an undergrad, for you to fit into the very competitive graduate application process and then be able to make your applications, gain scholarships, and then pursue your dream and become who you want to be. Then we also try to signpost you to scholarship opportunities as well. And so at this point in time, I would like to introduce a couple of guys, the amazing guys who have come on board to join us today in what we are doing. And I'm going to start from the photo you are looking. I'm going to start from Pusumane. One is a Cambridge Trust MPhil scholar at the University of Cambridge. Her current research focuses on exploring the contradiction and implication of anti-trafficking work, and her research interests are in gender rights activism as well as African feminism. So in 2019, she was awarded a full travel scholarship to present her undergraduate dissertation paper at the International Association of Feminist Economics annual conference in Glasgow. And so Anne graduated from the African Leadership College in Mauritius in 2019 as part of the inaugural cohort under a full scholarship, and her A-levels in Maru Pula School in Botswana was under a full scholarship as well by the Alan Gray Orbis Foundation. She's also the MCR Women's Officer for Trinity Hall, which is one of the 31 colleges you have here in Cambridge, as well as a member of the Cambridge University Kickboxing Society and a class rep for the MPhils in African Studies, the 2019-2020 cohorts. The next on my list is Chidozie Ojobor, who started out his...
It talks about the pictures. We can't see the photos.
Yeah, I think I can. I'm using what we have here. Can you guys see the photos now?
No, just the poster.
Yeah, I'm using the poster actually.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so the number 3 on the poster is Chidozie Ojobor, who started out his earlier years in Lagos, Nigeria. So the demise of his late sister and excellent performances in his science subject led him to study microbiology in University of Nigeria, Nsukka, where he finished with a first-class honor. So he also obtained a master's in medical microbiology and graduated with a 5/5 CGPA. Apart from graduating top in his class in both degrees, Chidozie won the Presidential Special Scholarship from the Office of the Nigerian President in 2015. Currently, he's completing his PhD in the Department of Molecular Genetics, University of Toronto in Canada. In 2019, he emerged the first student from a Canadian university to have won the prestigious Global Citizen Scholarship from the USA. He was named one of the top University of Toronto students in 2019. Chidozie is also a co-founding trustee of the Africa for Our Dream initiative and the pioneer of the Intellecting Mentoring Scheme, through which young Nigerians are being mentored by excellent Nigerians doing exploits in their respective fields. And the next that we are going to be having today is Chioma Achi. Chioma is a Cambridge Africa PhD scholar at the University of Cambridge. She is currently working on antimicrobial resistance in people and animals. She's also a lecturer of public health and preventive medicine in the Department of Veterinary Medicine, Usman Fodio University, Sokoto. She won the British Council Innovation 360-degree award that provided her with full scholarship to study for an MSc in Applied Microbiology and Biotechnology at the University of Westminster in London. She also got selected as a Mandela Washington Fellow, where she went on the Civic Leadership Program at the University of California in Berkeley. So Chioma is the MCR Academic Officer for Churchill College at the University of Cambridge and a brilliant club tutor. She's also a trustee of the Africa of Our Dream initiative. And the next person we are going to be interacting with today is David Izuogu. David is a first-class graduate of pure and industrial chemistry from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, as well as Hokkaido University, Japan. Having finished his master's degree with distinction at Tohoku University, Japan, David is now doing a PhD in computational chemistry at Wolfson College at the University of Cambridge. He has received several awards and scholarships towards his studies and activities, including the JASA Scholarship for his undergrad, Preston Scholarship, MEXT, Cambridge Trust, as well as the Islamic Development Bart Merit Scholarship, among others. He has served at several leadership positions as a Cambridge Trust Scholar, including the International Officer of the Graduates Union, the President of Wolfson College Students Association, President of the Wolfson Entrepreneurial Society, among others. So in 2019, he won the University of Cambridge Vice Chancellor Social Impact Award and was recently named one of the 30 2020 CAS Future Leaders from 18 countries by the CAS Division of the American Chemical Society. David is the founder of Africa of Our Dream Initiative and the chair of the board. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with honor that I present to you these amazing scholars who have availed themselves to be with us today. So yeah, there we have Chioma and One. I think we lost, did we lose Chidozie?
No, you have to add me.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So thank you guys. Thank you guys for really joining us. It's a pleasure having you here today. Out of your busy schedule, you've decided to join us today. So without wasting time, I think we're already running behind schedule. I would like us to start by looking at personal journey and challenges of you getting where you are today. So maybe we could start with Chioma. Chioma, if you can just tell us one or two things, your personal challenges, because it's worth sharing experience for others to learn how you navigated yourself to where you are today.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here and nice to be meeting all those wonderful people that we can see joining us live. So as David has already said, I am a doctoral researcher here, but then it didn't just come easy. I would say it was my third time of applying to Cambridge that I actually got in. So I applied the first year through. The second year, I got it, but there was no funding. And then the third year, and I was just seriously praying that I get the funding because it's usually so expensive to fund your way through a PhD studies. And luckily enough, the third time I got the funding and I was able to come here. Before then, I started off a PhD in Nigeria. But I just knew within me that I wasn't going to complete that. So I was going to, at some point, education outside the country. And I kept working towards that. I also tried, so my MSc, like David said, was at the University of Westminster, London. And it was through, I actually got it through a British Council Innovation 360-degree scholarship. And that was like a nationwide competition where everyone was required to come in and say how competitive they are and actually show how competitive they are, how innovative they can be in certain areas. And I turned out, I actually emerged the overall winner. And with that, I got the full funding for the University of Westminster. Yeah, and my first degree was in veterinary medicine at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. I studied veterinary medicine for 6 years, 6 torturous years. I'm sure if some of my teachers or professors would hear, they would understand. Yeah, so it's actually been a long journey. Undergrads wasn't so easy, but we were able to scale through. And yeah, here I am now. That's me.
Yeah, that's amazing. I hope we are learning from that. If you have, as we are having out this discussion, if you have any question, you can just pop it up there in the chat box. I'll be able to bring them up here. Then we can begin to look at your questions. And as well, once we are done with this interaction, we'll give you the opportunity to come on board to join us here to speak with us live as well. So next, maybe we should go over to Ojobor, Chidozie. If you care to share your experience, how you navigated your way through up to the point where you are at the University of Toronto and making wave there too.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chicks. And One and Chioma, it's really very pleasing to meet you guys. And also to the viewers, I want to say hi to all of you guys, and it's nice to have you guys here. Yeah, I mean, one of the very important things that I love to do as a person is to not just share my experiences, but also hear the experiences of others, because when I do that, it basically mirrors my own experience as well. I'm just getting to know Chioma, and now I understand that she also studied microbiology. So I did study microbiology, first degree, University of Nigeria. And like Chooks had mentioned, one of the very things that motivated me to go study microbiology was the demise of my sister. So she had passed on because she had an infectious disease that was incurable at the time. And because of that, I just basically grew interested in antibiotic resistant diseases. So that led me to study yeah. So that led me to to study microbiology, and I was glad that I did. I did really fall in love with the course, and when I finished, I did a master's in medical microbiology as well. And when I graduated, I I came back to University of Nigeria to lecture. So I lectured in University of Nigeria for like 3 years. But at the time I was lecturing and all that, I knew that I wanted to, of course, like do more hands-on research and pursue my dreams and my passion, and that was molecular genetics. And so thankfully I did get scholarships. I did get the Presidential Special Scholarship from Nigeria, which at the same time, thankfully the University of Toronto opportunity also came up, the fully funded scholarship. And then I did go with the University of Toronto scholarship, and that was how I found myself here. I've been in the program since 2015. So usually we do like a rotation program where you have to go through 3 different labs, after which you then decide on the lab to stay in. So I'm currently in a lab where I work on phages. So the phages are basically bacterial viruses, and I'm basically developing them, engineering them to basically retarget their killing spectrum. So we're basically just trying to develop them as new therapeutics, alternative therapeutics to antibiotics. All right. So I'm working on completing my thesis really soon. I can't wait to get off the doctoral school, not because I don't love it, but because I just want to experience another form of life. I just want to have another experience altogether. So I'm literally just itching, and I'm one of the very persons hoping that this whole COVID situation passes so that I could literally move on with my life. It is nice to have you guys here.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Such an inspiring story you've gathered, Chidozie. Next, without a waste of time, we would like to hear from One, how she has navigated herself to Cambridge University today.
Okay, I think with me navigating to Cambridge, what I've learned mostly was like, what I struggle with was like during the applications, learning how to tell the story, or like what it is exactly that people are looking for in the application, right? And I think there was a year I was applying for things or conference, whatever, and I was not getting it because I didn't know what exactly or what are the key skills you need to be having to tell a story, or what are the things they're looking for. I think going through that process of like, okay, you have to apply, or like you have to like have 6 drafts before you have like that particular draft that you can share with your supervisor or share with someone to look at. I think that's the thing. I think that's one of the things that taught me. And I think I did internet admissions, and one thing that I learned is that you have students who would like inbox and be like, oh, does the institution have this course? Yes, but yet the institution only has 4 courses to offer. So like you're a medical student emailing a business college to ask if they have medicine. So I think one of the things that I learned is like you need to be doing your research a lot, and you need to put in the work, because there are students that apply a year before, like they're prepping their CV, they're prepping everything a year before. And for me, I decided like 6 months prior to my graduation that I needed to, or I'm ready for graduate school. But at that point in time, that meant I needed to, grapple with finalizing my thesis and working on that, and also doing applications. And then by that, I had to narrow down which school am I going to, which region, do I have the money to like do GREs or not? So I think that's the thing, that a lot of research needs to go into it, a lot of thought. So I think that's for me the challenges. But I think I've learned a lot going through that, the rejections, the thank you for applying emails. So yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway coming to Cambridge. But I'm glad for the full scholarship and getting here.
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to kind of skip my own story. We have a whole lot of time to talk about my own story because of time. And I would like us to move straight into the next item we have on our agenda, which is selecting schools and approaching potential supervisors. So we're already moving straight into what we are here for today. We have a whole lot of things for you, so just stick around. So for this, I would let One to kind of lead the discussion around that. Una is going to be telling us about how to select your schools and then how you can approach potential supervisor, because these things are key for you, whether it means getting admission or getting funding for that. Okay, so Une, I will leave that to you to lead, and then we can chip in what we've got following that.
Okay, I think first right off the bat, when you think about, okay, which school do I need to be going to, it definitely has to be alongside what academic interests you have, right? Whether you want to do medicine, whether you want to do something in social sciences or whatever, you have to actually do the research to, like, I don't know, do a quick Google research to see what are the rankings of the universities around the world, even if you don't have like a particular school. So some people might have like, okay, I want to go to Harvard and that's my dream. So Harvard is the goal, right? But some people might be like, okay, I want to do like social sciences, or I want to do like something in African or sociology or something, but they don't have a particular idea of like which institution around the world is able to offer that good program that they want. So it'll be good to like just go into the internet and see, okay, what are the best schools that around the world are there for sociology, if you don't have one particular one that you're aiming for. And that will be good to look at, okay, what kind of program they offer. It's good to like go on the website, because most of these institutions, what they have the particular department there. And what you can do is like, okay, fine, go to the African Studies department if you want to study African Studies, and look at the kind of module handbook they have. Do they have the programs that you want? What are the courses that they're doing, or the modules they're offering? Do they like overlap with what you want to do as an individual, right? And although some students coming from undergrad or coming from high school might be like, I'm still so confused on what I want to do, a good idea would be to look at, okay, what interests you have. Are you so much interested in like technology or like business or entrepreneurship, or like what exactly makes you want to do something, or like want to change the world, or like do all of that in your community? So I think that'll be the thing to do. Go into the internet, look at the rankings, and start to narrow it down from there. And you narrow it down by looking at, okay, does it overlap with my interests? Will it be adding on, or like what am I bringing into the department? Because those are the lot of questions that they ask in your personal statement. Like, okay, what have you done thus far to say you want this program, and why would you be the best fit for this program, right? So those are the things you need to be thinking of. And also which part of the world, like you want to be going to the UK or the US or any other place, and why is that? Because for me, in my experience, I came from a UK institution. For my undergrad, it was under a UK institution, and then applying to the US at that time, where I made the decision later in my time that I wanted to go to a postgrad. I hadn't done my GREs. I hadn't done the standardized test needed for that. So then that was one of the things that helped me narrow down that, okay, fine, the UK for me is the region that I would want to go to, given the kind of background I have in terms of my undergrad, in terms of my undergrad and my grades, and in terms of like the system would fit right well, and I wouldn't have to do any more tests or all of that, because a lot of that fits in. Because once you think about the US, you have to do your GREs, the standardized tests, and that costs money. And if you haven't saved enough or like thought beforehand, that means it's extra cost, maybe money that you might not have. So it's always like, look at those things. Okay, do I want to go into undergrad now, or maybe later in the year, or like 2 years, or take a gap year? So that will inform which school you do, but also like the school that you go to. Are there opportunities for you to go there? Like, okay, you're going to a particular department. Who are you going to be working with? Are you going to like have opportunities to go to conferences? Can they support your travel schemes and all of those things? So I think it's basically around, okay, your academic interests and whatnot. And some people might be wanting to do sports, so you can have institutions that will support your sports scholarship alongside your academic interest. So it's a better understanding or having an idea before you even go onto the internet search, because there's so much information. And if you don't have an idea of where to start, then that might be like so overwhelming for you. So always have an idea of, okay, I like this, or I like this particular course, then take it from there and start narrowing it down. And you'll find a lot of information on the internet alongside rankings of universities. And those rankings are based on 1, 2, 3, is it funding or rankings or whatever, and that will do. And the second main point is like, look at your institutions or the school that you want to go to based on funding. Because in my experience, like I got a lot of like admissions, but most of those admissions didn't have funding. So like, okay, fine, you enter the department, you have the admission, but there's no funding, and then you're struggling a lot to try to contact institutions that don't know you and that will never reply to you, right? So you have to, I think, alongside searching for that program, always make sure, is there funding for that, so that you are more efficient in your research, so that you're not wasting time applying to a program that later you're not going to get any funding for. I think that helps you be more efficient. And you can do that by particularly like understanding what program you want, going into that university's website or that particular department website and understand, okay, this is the program, what are the funding deadlines? And what I usually advise people, always have a spreadsheet to be like, okay, fine, if I want to apply to the US, these are the opening timelines for the US programs, right? And these are the timelines or deadlines for funding. And when do I need to be submitting what? Who do I need to be contacting to? Who are my supervisors or people that can definitely recommend me or do all of those things? And that will inform your timelines and how you apply and all of those things. But definitely my main selling point, always do your research so that you're well prepared and you're selling yourself. Because most of the time, the admission and the funding is very competitive, and a lot of people have been practicing and doing their applications way months before, and you doing it a week before that one. I'm like, so the work needs to be there and you need to be working hard to get in there. Yeah, I think, but overall, make sure your academic interests are there. It's an opportunity that can help you grow a department that can add on to what you want to do. And there's opportunity for funding, whether it's partial funding, and if it's partial, can you like match up the other parts, or like maybe the university has partial funding and then your department can match up other parts, or maybe they recommend an institution or other people that can support you in that funding. But research is the main point of your day, I think. Yeah, unless you guys have anything other to add.
Yeah, cool. From the perspective of the PhDs and all that, maybe I should leave Chioma as well as Ojobor to talk about that. But Chioma, let's listen to you then.
Okay, yeah. So thanks, Anya, for that wonderful illustration already. So I think just going to take it from two angles. Anya has spoken a lot about the master's part, and then the PhD part route is a different thing. So I wanted us to look at it from the point of view of what you actually want. So if you think you want to apply to university abroad, you want to apply to university overseas, and you're still an undergrad, there's still a lot of time for you to make good grades that will be competitive for you to get into any funding or scholarship. So that's one. And if you're done with your undergrads and you want to move into MSc, that's what she said about researching options and knowing what is right for you. For instance, there are over 40,000 courses that you can choose from. So which exactly do you want? You have to have that at the back of your mind. Then coming to the PhD research, for instance, PhD, I must tell you, is hard work. It is a lot of hard work. And you don't want to be doing that hard work at the same time trying to struggling or wondering where you're going to get your funds from, or where you're going to get money for your next meal or your next transport. So as much as possible, you want to be able to get scholarship. And if possible, you want to get a fully funded scholarship. But then most universities would not respond to you until you get a potential supervisor. You have to have someone who is willing to support your application. And that means that, so they don't want a situation where you apply to a university, you get accepted onto the program, and they don't have anyone who can actually supervise your area of interest. That would not be good. That would mean that you would have wasted many of your years putting together your application and all that, and that won't be good for you, and that won't be a good image for the school. So they always want you to get through to a potential supervisor first. And how can you do it? So if you know what area of research you want to delve into, for instance, if you say you want to go into chemistry or so, chemical engineering or microbiology, have back of your mind, what universities offer this microbiology, right? What universities offer chemical engineering, for instance? Google, you would find it, to give you a list of the universities. Then narrow down for the staff or faculty that do those courses. When you narrow down on those faculty members, look at it, who is doing what. So it could be one of two things here. It's either you already have a topic in mind and you're telling yourself, oh, this is the topic I must do, irrespective of what happens. Or you're flexible. You're like, okay, I'll just see which supervisors have funding and I'll go with that. So those are two routes you can take. So if you're taking if you have the money you want to go for yourself, and then you have your project, you're sure that this is what you want to do, go on, research supervisors or the PIs who are working on that area. And it's usually good to come prepared. So oftentimes people just send an email, hello, I am this, I just finished from this university, this, please can you supervise me? Guys, these people are very busy. They will not respond to you if you write that sort of email to them to just say, I am this, I've just finished, I got this, and can you, no. So what they expect you to do and how they know you're already prepared, you would have gone through their profile on whatever page, read up what they're doing, even if it's not something that you were interested in before, show some interest, take up their latest paper. What have they done? What exactly is that they have done that you found interesting? then base it around that. Oh, I read your latest paper on this, and this is the idea I have about this, and I think this is how I can improve on it for you. These are the skills I already have, and this is what I am coming with. You know, so if you write that in an email and you go the extra mile to have a proposal, no matter how short, a one-page proposal, no matter how brief that is, it gives you a leverage. It tells somebody, it tells a PI or a supervisor that this person is actually ready. This person is ready for work. This is someone that knows what he or she is doing. I can listen to this person. Because these people, they get like thousands of applications. They get thousands of emails all around the years. So they want to actually know those that have strong passion for it. And you can actually send a speculative one, probably asking if you see that this supervisor has supervised other PhD students before, has postdocs, you can put together your proposal. Nothing stops you from doing that, even if it's not advertised. Put together your proposal, write a good email. If possible, ask someone to look at it for you and send it over to the supervisor. They are more likely to respond to you. Or if it's an advertised position, do your research around that area. Go online, read what you can, read about it, get yourself more informed, and then respond to the advertised position. But then I must tell you, preparation is key for you to get a lot of supervisors. And just to share a bit of my experience, I did not get a response the first time I started writing. You know, don't be dismayed, don't be discouraged. If you have written to like 3 supervisors, none of them responded, don't be discouraged. Just keep writing. But what you will try to do is, so if you have 2 supervisors who are in the same department, or you have researched that group and they're in the same department, don't write to each of them at the same time because they speak to themselves. I made that mistake and I don't want you to make the same mistake. And the reason is that if, for instance, one supervisor doesn't have funding but finds you very interesting, that supervisor can always speak to his or her colleague to say, oh, I've got this candidate who I think is very interesting and has a lot of potentials. Are you able to fund? Are you able to take up the student, that sort of thing? So wait to hear back. But if you don't hear back after a short while, still send an email. If they don't respond to you, go ahead to ask other colleagues. But yeah, I think I'll still come up after we hear from Chidozie.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chioma. So let's listen to Chidozie, because somehow, again, you will also realize that the process of all this application is also distant and kind of differ from university to university, from country to country. So it's good to get a wide perspective of what this looks like across universities, across countries, and the rest of that. So Dozie, let's hear from you and what you have to say.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chooks, and thank you, One and Chioma. So one of the very interesting things about speaking with academics is they literally go into your mind and then they just steal everything and say everything, and you're like, you're like, oh, okay, yeah. So while both of you were talking, a couple of things I wanted to say, you guys have said it, and it basically just tells every other person who is listening that there is so much similarity and there's so much commonality in amongst people who get to do things right, and of course people who get to do things wrong as well. But amongst people who get to do things right, all right, there's a lot of commonality, and it's interesting that in as much as we say these things differently, we're all pointing towards the same thing. In which case, we're talking about researching properly. So in terms of writing to supervisors, Chioma had said something, but I would just like to, expatiate a little bit on it. There are a lot of pointers. There's a lot of punchlines that you should have in the letters that you're writing to your supervisors. And just like she said, these guys are usually very, very busy people. And so what you should be thinking in your head is, what is going to make my letter unique? What is going to make my letter stand out from the hundreds of letters that these people are getting? All right. And this is where it is imperative for you to do as much research about a supervisor and his research group as possible. So one of the things I've done is, for the people that I mentor privately, is I've developed a model letter for requesting for supervision. So maybe subsequently I could share this document with Chooks and the rest of us, and then we can always modify it. But the idea is for us to, for the people who are yet to get into PhD programs, to have an idea of how a model letter is supposed to be. All right. And secondly, for me, one of the things that I was looking out for when I was trying to apply to schools was I was trying to also ensure that the structure of the curriculum of the program, which I was getting into, would fit into what I wanted. And so I'm in the molecular genetics program, University of Toronto in Canada. And one of the very important things that I find very interesting that we do in my program is that we do what we call a rotation. We do lab rotations. So when you get into the PhD program, what we do is you get the opportunity to rotate through 3 different labs. And the idea is for you to have an idea of what these different labs do so that you could, further develop your interest, a research interest. I know that before people start off their PhDs, people have research interest. But the real truth is you never really know what you're interested in until you start doing certain things, all right? So, I mean, I had a research interest. I had a research interest before getting into grad school. But the moment I got into my doctoral program, I then started to, do some other forms of science that I found interesting. And I ended up doing one of them, all right? Which I was very lucky coincided greatly with what I always wanted to do. And so because I had a rotation program, I had other schools I wanted to apply to. So University of Toronto for me, because the structure of the curriculum coincided with what I wanted. All right. So it was I knew it was my first choice. I wrote to about 33 professors. All right. I wrote to about 33. Yeah. I kept on writing because I did not want to cast all my eggs in one basket. And this is one thing, like when Chioma said, do not be dismayed and do not be discouraged. It is a message that I think that every mentor should continually preach to people who are intending to apply to schools. Because, I mean, there's different kinds of students. There's students who already have an entitlement mentality, maybe because they had a first class or maybe because they had a 5 point and all that. That's my story. Right? You could have all of those things, and yet you might not be the best. You're competing with the best guys that are coming from more developed countries that have had wonderful research opportunities and research experiences, and some of them even have papers in very super high impact factor journals. And so all of these things are the different things that supervisors are looking at, and they're like, oh, they could have 7 wonderful students, but it could just be the fact that one person has a paper and the other person does not. And that's why you're going to get that rejection email. In the real sense, it's not a rejection email. It's just an email too that prepares you for preparing your next application in a better way. All right. So I wrote to 33 people, and guess what? How many people responded to me? 3 of them. How many people said yes? How many people said yes? 1. 2 said no. So what that means is that if the one person who said yes, they didn't say yes, I was probably going to stay for another year, and I was probably going to keep applying to schools. It would be me literally going back to square one. It is depressing, of course, but do you get better? Yes. And that's the point. The point is that the application process makes you a better person. The point is that the application process prepares your mind, because you're coming into a program. It is a research program, and for the most part, you're probably going to have imposter syndrome. You're going to feel inadequate. You're going to stay in the lab for hours. You're going to design experiments. You're going to crash. You're going to fail. You're going to go back home. I remember when I started my PhD, I'd be on the subway. I keep thinking to myself that I'm not as smart as I thought I was. And so what are the things that will prepare you for that? It is the rejection emails that you get. All right. So I think that these things are very, very important, that people do not have that entitlement mentality, but people should keep applying and keep doing what they ought to do just until they get what they have to get. You're pursuing something. Always remember that, and it may not come the first time.
Yeah. Just to add to what just to add to what you've just said, I just want people to also, when you're looking at applying to a potential supervisor, if possible, I know we don't have that mentality back home. We're always feeling, oh, if they're giving us opportunity, then this is great. But but when you come in, you begin to realize, if you ask yourself whether you made the right choice or the wrong choice, you want to also be in the right group. So send emails to people who are currently there. Look up the current grad student or postdoc. Just tell them that you're interested in this lab. How are they finding it there? Are they finding it interesting? And it's also a matter of you thinking, do you want to go to the first university in the world because it's the first university in the world? Or do you want to go to a university that is best at your own subject area? There are two things. Some universities are very skilled in technology, engineering. They are the best. They might not rank first, 2, 3, or 4, but they could be the best in that area. So one of that good things for yourself is look for those universities that are actually best at what they do, not just the ones that are best overall, but specific ones who are best at what they do. And all of this is online.
All right, thank you very much. I was glad to hear you, Dozie, when you said you reached out to 33 professors and only 3 responded. I've got a couple of guys who usually tell me, man, people are not responding, professors are not responding. And then you ask them, how many of them have you sent to? They say 2, 3, 1 person. You have to keep on trying. You have to keep on trying. You see, 33, and then 3 did what? Responded, out of which 1 said yes. That is what you call perseverance, you know. So thank you very much. And I hope that this is touching someone. This is telling someone not to give up out there. This is trying to tell someone that, yes, no matter what, when you fail, you stand up and continue to try. Because of time constraint again, I just have to say this right now. We are going to have time to kind of spend on specific topic. The way we are taking them today, we are just trying to tell you things that we can talk about the entire process. But in subsequent hangouts, what we are going to be doing is, if we come with, okay, today we are going to be treating personal statements. From the beginning to the end, all we are going to be talking about is personal statements so that you can get it right. Next, we can say we are going to be talking about how to approach your supervisors, how to know which supervisor to even approach in the first place, how to get your information from the departmental website, from the university website, and what have you. We are going to take all these topics one after the other. And once we come in here, we treat just that for the day. And so because of time, I'm going to move next to the next thing we have on the agenda. And we are just going to briefly touch that, and that is personal statements. Okay, so one of the things, whether you are a master's student, you are trying to go for PhD, that you are going to have to deal with is your personal statement. But I have to declare something, personal declaration. Personal statements can come in different forms. So whatever I'm going to say today and whatever Dozie or One or Chioma is going to say today might be different perspective, how it has worked for the various persons. Your own journey is completely different from mine. I might have an interesting story caption I have to start my personal statement from. You might not have, so you have to devise a different means. But in all, you just have to capture as much as what we are going to be saying today. So I will say that if I'm writing a personal statement today, I'm just going to limit the personal statement to 3 paragraphs. And in the first paragraph, I will start by saying what I'm applying for, who I am, and if there is any catchy headline that will kind of make the person who is reading my personal statement to get interested in what I'm going to say later, I will include that in this first paragraph. And then in paragraph 2, I will now be talking about what academic experience I have, what preparation I have undertaken, and what skills I'm bringing to the course. Because it's very important. Sometimes you are making a move. For instance, for my master's, I was an experimental chemist. I was working in the laboratory, synthesizing compounds, analyzing them, characterizing them, and all that. But today, I'm doing computational chemistry, which requires that I have some background in theory and quantum mechanics and all that. But while I was speaking to my supervisor, as well as in my personal statement, I was able to connect what I was doing, the skills that I have, to what I'm coming to Cambridge to do. And that was actually what kind of interested my supervisor to say, yeah, I think we could work together. So you want to make sure that you hit your academic experience, then what preparation you've actually made, because they want to make sure that, yeah, you're actually coming here to do what you claim you want to do. And then what skills, tie your skills to the program you're coming to do on board. If you think that the skills that you have are probably inadequate, then you have to say what you've undertaken. Today, there are a whole lot of online courses that you can take to supplement whatever deficiency you think you have there. If you come on our mentoring program on Slack platform, we've tried to give more than 30 online platforms that you can go to make up for whatever deficiency you have in your skills. And then in the third paragraph, what I'm going to be bringing in there is why I want to do this particular course at that particular university. This is where you talk about whatever expertise that there are at the university and why that is actually necessary and beneficial, and why you can't do that at, say, in Nigeria, in South Africa, or wherever you are because of whatever reason. You have to say it at this paragraph. And then you shouldn't end without including in the personal statement what your goals are. So these are just a summary of what I think that if you want to write a personal statement, you should be bringing it there. We can go into details and start talking about how do I develop myself? How do I prepare myself ahead of time? How do I make sure that I have something to say in the personal statement? Apart from the fact that we are trying to bring you this mentoring scheme on the platform of Africa for Our Dream Initiative, we are also trying to provide you with a platform to give you an experience of what to even include in your personal statement. So one of the things that people who are giving you scholarship, imagine, for instance, my scholarship here in Cambridge, every year, annually, both my tuition and my living expenses pays about 25 million naira equivalent per year, just to allow me study in Cambridge. So you can imagine that somebody is bringing out that kind of money. The person has to be convinced that after your PhD, at least you'll be able to make the world a better place. You'll be able to contribute your own quota towards making the world, helping other people. You have the passion to make people kind of become better than they are. So one of the things that people don't play around here is volunteering jobs. So devote your time to volunteer for a particular cause. So you mustn't have money to give out people in order to change the world. You have to look at your skills, use your time, find where your passion lies, and then be able to make your world a better place. So when you are writing your personal statement, you can bring in all this to convince your funders, the people who are trying to fund you, give you millions of money to pursue your dream, that after your education, you will not just be relevant for yourself and your family, but you'll be relevant in the society. You'll be able to help build the society and make the world a better place. And so on AODI platform, we have different ways which you can come on board as a project facilitator, as a volunteer. You can become an ambassador. We'll be able to issue you a certificate for whatever you have done to improve the life of others on the platform. And that will be an added advantage for you when you're writing your personal statement, your CV, all those things matters. It's not always in our blood back home to take volunteering things that serious, but trust me, it's a serious thing, and we can always work together.
How much they go pay me?
Yes, so I will just stop there without saying much, and then allow others to contribute to the issue of personal statement while we move on. So maybe we can, One.
Oh, I think one thing that I wanted to add is like some of the departments that you may be applying to, they might have guiding questions for your personal statement, like, okay, like what are you bringing, or like what are you bringing to the program and why should we select you? So I think most of the time, if you're struggling to set up or like articulate the kind of story that you want to tell, studying with those guiding questions might be a good thing for you to look at so that you know you're covering all your bases. Because sometimes what I know some people tend to get to do is like get lost in the story, and like one thing you should avoid. I think one thing that I know is like everybody always has a sob story. So don't get caught up in like, oh, my mother didn't have money. Anyone can say that, right? So as like make it specific to you and explain why your story has shaped you in a particular manner to be suited for that program, right? Don't get caught up in the suffering Olympics. You're gonna be like, okay, I didn't have a father. Someone is gonna, oh, I didn't have both parents. Like always, someone will always have a better sob story than yours. So don't get caught up in trying to articulate that, but think of, okay, what basics am I covering? After someone reads the statement, what do they need to be knowing about me? So much that they're willing to give money to invest in my story and in my learning capabilities. When you talk about the skills, don't say, okay, I have these skills, but be specific to those skills. And sometimes it takes like going into the module handbook to say, okay, fine, this particular program will fit into this narrative, or like my story, or like what I want to do because of 1, 2, 3. And in that personal statement, they can see that actually you took the time to research and look at that course, and you understand what exactly is that, rather than saying, okay, I just want to do medicine, but why? Why would you want to do that? So specifically asking yourself all the time after writing every paragraph, okay, what does this add to my story? How is this helping my story? And what particular narrative do you want to be telling? Because some things you can lift to your CV for people to look at, because in instances you would have to submit an academic CV. So okay, understand that you can leave some things for your CV, but what story do you want to be submitting or talking about in your personal statement? Do you want to talk about chronology, like, okay, when I was young, now it's 2014 or 2017, or like, what story are you telling? Because imagine there are thousands of applicants applying. Some people have been like working at this for a whole year. What is your story? What do you want to be telling? At the end of the point, what should someone get out of it, and why you specifically, and try to be specific to your story. I think that works.
Okay. I'll just add a little bit of stuff. So like Chuks and Onye has already said, it is your personal statement, yours. If I pick up that sheet of paper, that 1 page or 500 words or 1,000 word document you have just written, what would keep me interested in keep reading? What will make me to keep reading that particular statement? Have you been able to show passion? Anybody can just pick up a paper and read, oh, this person might not be as clever or might not have all the distinction or first class, but this person is showing so much passion for this subject area. So passion is key. If you have to put your personal statement together, try to emphasize a lot about it. Let it reflect the sort of passion you have for that area. And then I would also say, they've mentioned it already. So don't go, you're applying for engineering, and all your skills and all you have done in the past years have been in social science. It doesn't show that you're a great fit for that program. So your personal statement should also be able to show how much you fit into that little space. And everyone has overemphasized that. You're not going to be the only one. You're going to be competing with people from all over the world. You have to make someone stick to your paper to read through to the end. Another thing I would mention is when you write all your statement, when you put it together, don't just submit it immediately. That means you have to give yourself time. So if the deadline is, say, 3rd of December, don't start writing on the 1st of December or 30th of November, because the chances that you'll be in a hurry and make a lot of mistakes are higher. And it might not be a reflection of you not knowing how to correct your grammar or write spelling correctly. It might just be because you're in a hurry. But the person on the other side who is reading would not know that you are in a hurry. So I would advocate you give yourself time to put together your personal statement and then give it to people around you to also read. Does this make sense? So if you're the one scoring me, what would you think? What do you think I should change? Look at the spellings, the English, the grammar, everything. What needs changing? If anything actually needs changing, just do it. And like they've already mentioned, they don't want to start seeing you, oh, when I was young, and this happened. What makes you different? So if I say just go for it, put together your thoughts and let your passion show, let your skills show, let your fitness towards the program also show, and then you stand a better chance to ace it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chioma. Next, I would like Chidozie. Do you have something to chip in about the personal statement issue?
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, so for the most part, you guys already said like most of it. But I remember sometime 10 years ago when I was writing my first business plan, I wrote it. To me, it was awesome. And then when whoever I gave it to read it, it was garbage. Now, why? Because before I wrote that business plan, I didn't even look up what a business plan looked like. All right. I didn't bother to get like, a model business plan and then see how I could write. So when you're learning something, it's like a child that is learning to walk. If you're learning to do something, you have to be very methodical in your approach in learning things. Go online. For example, say you want to do a master's or a PhD in public health. There's tons of wonderful public health personal statements online. All right. You could get them. The goal is not to literally plagiarize what they've written already, but the idea is to see how these statements and these letters were arranged, like how the paragraphs were arranged, how each of the questions, how each of, like Onel was saying, that's in some programs, they literally particularly ask you questions. So you need to also learn how to arrange your answers in certain paragraphs. The idea is for whoever is reading to read what you have written and to flow, to play a role in your story. The idea is to tell a story. It's like a pitch. It's like you're pitching your business plan and you want to get money. You want to present yourself in the best light. All right. Another important thing, which is probably the last thing I'm going to say about this, is that I've been privileged to review personal statements from people from back home and people and the students that I train here. So sometimes I train undergrad students who eventually end up becoming graduate students. And trust me, people coming from back home are very conservative when they write. I don't know, it's probably the culture. And then like you want to write about the things that you have done and you're very, very, you're trying to be very humble about what you have written. And, this is not you trying to be braggadocious. You know what? You need to write what you've done. And you need to articulately write it. All right. You need to put it down in a way that will look not just expressive, but impressive. All right. So you want to be expressive and impressive at the same time. You know why? Because you're competing with a host of other people. All right. So, you were talking about volunteering. Some people do not even consider that place of primary assignment as volunteering. When I was writing my personal statement, for example, most of the volunteering work that I said I did, which I did, was when I was in NYSC. I was in the Nigeria Christian Couples Fellowship. I was going for Rural Rugged. Those are volunteering programs. So people don't see these things, all right? People don't want to write about these things because we're very conservative in the way we think. We want to be humble. See, this is academics. There's a lot of bullying in academics, all right? Which is not, exactly great. But some of these things, because they're competitive, when you're in a competitive space, you want to present yourself. You're not trying to embellish yourself to be what you're not, but you want to ensure that whatsoever it is that you've taken part in, or whatsoever it is that your accomplishment is, that you put it out there, articulate it, and ensure that if they were to pick somebody, that you'll be the person. So that's the idea.
Yeah, so I saw someone write up something there, David, and he was actually talking about the undergrad application.
Yes,
so
we are going to talk about that later. That is so complex across countries.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, even for some undergrad courses in the UK, you would have to write personal statements. So yes. Just to say that this also ties with we're not just discussing postgrad only. The personal statement, you would have to also write it for your undergrad, especially if you're coming to somewhere like the UK, to do an undergraduate studies, you'll be required to write personal statement. And in that case, you could add maybe like a book you've read before, or an article you have read around that area. So if you're doing like history, you could just say, okay, haven't read this, the history on the early, maybe the pandemic, COVID-19, 2020. I got this, and that was what sparked my interest, that sort of thing. So even as undergrads, you will be required to write a personal statement.
Okay, thank you very much for that addition, Chioma. Just to wrap up this section, there is one thing I just want to mention. Like Chidozie said, tell your story. But remember, again, we want to hear the stories of problems, obstacles you've encountered, and how you were able to overcome those obstacles. Listen, the world is all about trying to figure out how to provide solutions to a whole lot of problems. So it means that if there are any difficulties you had from the time in your high school, wherever it is, through your undergrad, we want you to include them in your personal statement. But don't be emotional about them, be professional about them. You have to present them in a strong way, not as a weak person. You have to show that this is actually something that affected you, but you were able to kind of do what? Navigate yourself out of this by doing this. That shows that, yes, when you find yourself in a difficult situation, you'll be able to find yourself out. So the next is scholarships, how to start, where to look. We are going to be using maybe Canada or US, wherever it is. And so I will let Chidozie to lead that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I think I would, because I know many of us have a lot of things to say about this one. So I'm just going to probably, say a a few things, and maybe when everybody's done, I could say one other thing. Yeah. So one is, and I'm going to say this, I'm going to glean this from my own personal experience. All right. So when I started applying for scholarships, one of the biggest mistakes I made at the start was and this was in 2012, between 2012 2013, I was literally looking out for scholarships, local scholarships, sponsoring students abroad. All right. So I was thinking about Presid, I was thinking about PTDF, I was thinking about NIDA, I was thinking about all of those scholarships that were funded by local institutions or local government or the federal government of my resident country at the time, Nigeria, and because I did that, I lost 2 years, I'm sure. All right. So I think it is imperative for people who are applying to scholarships to know that, scholarships could come in different forms. You could get scholarships from your local community. You could get scholarships from the federal government. You could get scholarships from international organizations. You could get scholarships from the university you're going to. In fact, a lot of scholarships come from the program that you're intending to study. All right. And so if you have an idea of where these different scholarships could come from, it helps you to navigate through the internet properly and efficiently. And so when I started to develop myself, for example, I started looking at prospectuses. All right. For example, I started looking at Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. Now, I did have a couple of friends who had the Commonwealth Scholarship. Yeah, so for people in the UK, they know there is a difference between the Commonwealth and then the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. All right. So the Commonwealth Scholarship, I didn't know people who got it, but those ones were literally decided back home. So the winners will be decided back home through interviews and all of that. And I'm sorry to say, it is not that I did not trust the systems back home, but all right, yeah, for some reason, it wasn't just the most dependable in the world. And so when I started looking at Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, I started understanding that, different schools actually had scholarship packages for different programs. All right. So by understanding that, I started to, I started to open up my tentacles. All right. And I'm still talking about when I was just looking at the UK, not Europe, just UK. All right. So the whole of 2012 passed, and probably the whole of 2013, I was still just looking at UK. It was in 2014 that I actually started applying properly. I started looking at the whole of Europe. I started looking at America. I started looking at Asia. All right. Thankfully, Chuks had gone to Japan, so Chuks would at least share his experiences and the ideas with us as to how to secure opportunities in Japan. When I started looking at places like Europe, I understood that in places like Germany, Finland, Denmark, and most of those Nordic countries, that education was actually free. All right? Because this is the truth. Not everybody, because scholarships are limited and are very competitive, not everybody is essentially able to get a full scholarship. But there are people who do have that basic financial background or capability, and they're able to fund themselves, probably just the living expenses. All right. So tuition is a lot. So there are some countries where tuitions are literally paid out for. All right. So you get an admission into the program in that school, and it doubles as a scholarship. It's a funding package, literally. Look towards Germany, look towards Finland, look towards Norway, look towards Denmark, look towards Sweden, lots of these countries. But I didn't know that. I started to know this when I started, looking at, other countries. Now, in the US and in Canada, the system is a little bit different. Now, the reason the system is a little bit different is because the master's program, for example, here, the master's programs here are mostly research-based, what you guys call MRES in the UK. MRES, right? What you guys call MRES. So here, because you're doing a master, most master's programs are like 2 years here. And so because you're spending most of the time in the lab and you're going to be paid from your supervisor's grant. So what happens is that before you actually get an opportunity, so most of the time, an admission into the program doubles as funding. So if you get your admission letter, you have actually got funding. Trust me, I almost missed it because I got an admission letter, and because I had got maybe more than 15 admissions from the UK, and I thought it was just like the same, I did not know that it doubled as funding. And then the letter was like 3 pages. I just needed to read a page further. Trust me, I had got this admission letter 2 weeks 2 weeks. It was literally just 2 weeks on my shelf before I went back and I actually saw that it came with a funding package. All right. Before I knew it came with it, I thought I was just in my head, I was just thinking, oh, they were going to send me the funding package much later in another letter. But I didn't know that the admission letter was going to come with, the funding package was going to come with the admission letter. So because it is supervisors that recommend you for admission here. And that's why, we talked about applying to supervisors in the first place. So for those of you who are wondering, why do you have to write to a supervisor? Yes, you have to write to them because they are the ones who are going to be funding your program and you're going to be paid from their grant. So because supervisors recommend you for admission here and funding, so it is important that you appeal to them properly when you're writing to them. So these are the things that, that I think are important for people to look at. Do not just look at one country, look at other places, look for the opportunities in those places. In some places, it is free tuition, you pay your living expenses. And for some people, for some families, they're able to afford that. In some countries like Canada, in some places in the US and Canada, for example, so this is the last I'm about to say, in some places in the US and Canada, all you actually have to do is when you get the admission, they give you TA-ship. And as long as you're doing teaching assistantship or graduate assistantship or research assistantship, what you're doing is, because you're doing that, the money you're making from that will be applied to your tuition and your living expense. So they give you an admission and then they give you TA-ship at the same time. So you're going there both as a student and as a staff of the department. All right. So I just think it's important for people to open their minds when they're looking.
All right, thank you very much. That's explicit and so detailed about that. So just to add, there are a whole lot of people that kind of approach me, write me maybe through chats or whatever, and say, I want to come to UK. I'm looking for funding, trying to narrow themselves to a particular country. Yeah, I understand that you have your dreams and you think that maybe UK or Canada or a specific country is the place where this dream can be kind of actualized. But remember that you have to start somewhere. You can start somewhere. That place can be Canada, it could be Finland, it could be Germany, it could be anywhere. Okay. So if, for instance, you want to study at Cambridge, and you think that maybe with whatever you have in Nigeria, you are being pessimistic about it, that you will not be able to get directly into Cambridge from there. You don't have to go for Cambridge. You can go for whatever university you consider as a lower university, but higher than whatever university you are coming from in Nigeria. Get started from there. Go there, do your master's, graduate with a good grade, and then apply to Cambridge for a PhD. So the one thing that is key here is get started with no matter how little it is. Okay. So I don't know, Chioma, do you have anything to chip in into?
Yeah, I do have some things to say about this. I was just going to say, someone just mentioned, obviously there are lots of links of scholarships online. For instance, if you subscribe to scholarship positions, you get information on scholarships around the world every week or every other week into your mailbox, and it's left for you to check. I do understand that could be very overwhelming. That could be very daunting when you see so many of them. But that is where your research has to start on time. You have to start early to start narrowing your path. That could be scholarship in a university in Germany, but that scholarship could be targeted at engineering students or mathematical students or students in this area. It is now where you have to go back and do more work. What university would favor me more? What course? This is the course I have in mind. What university should I target? I'll give you an instance of University of Nottingham, for instance, because we're going to talk about Cambridge later. So let me just focus on the rest now. The University of Nottingham, for instance, has the Vice Chancellor's Award. Imperial College, every year they give 50 awards, for postgrad studies and all of that. So if you already know where your focus is and what course you want to go for, you can narrow it down. It could take you months, but I tell you, I bet you it is worth it. Even if you have half of your funding and you come to do a PhD, I tell you, it's going to be very, you would struggle to make the remaining parts of the money. So whatever you can put into preparing and researching enough is going to be worth it at the end of the day. So yeah, that's what I have to say. And if you think you're not competitive enough for that scholarship now, you can close up the gap by doing certain things like we said before. Now, someone just asked how easy it is to get a PhD degree from, how easy is it to get a PhD degree from Nigeria or to get a PhD or postgrad out there. I know I got mine from Nigeria. Chooks, I know you got yours from men.
He's talking about PhD.
To get a PhD degree from Nigeria. If you had gotten a PhD degree in Nigeria, you want to get a PhD degree here. But I know in Nigeria, there are a lot of people who have gotten PhDs in Nigeria, and a lot of people who have gone outside to also get their PhD degrees. All I would say is whatever makes you competitive, please do it. Subscribe to the positions and subscribe to the emails. And Chooks has already talked about the Slack platform where we'll provide all of this information and help you keep updated with them. Please just join and narrow down your chances if you think it's too overwhelming for you to follow up everything.
Okay, I think he was actually talking about scholarship.
Yeah, it is very possible. It is very possible to get scholarship. So we are doing this because we have benefited from the process and we want to give back to the community, and we want to also tell others what they can do to get there. For some of us at that point, we didn't have people who would really break it down to you this way, and tell you what you need to do, the processes you needed to go. And that's why we thought that we actually owe it to people who are also looking for how to navigate their processes to put this up together. So it is the first mistake you will make with yourself is to doubt yourself. So when nobody else has told you no, you're already telling yourself that I'm not worth this, I can't get this. That will be your first mistake, I tell you. So don't let anything discourage you. Go for it, hit it. If you think you have the qualifications and you're competent enough, put it in. You never can tell. Yeah.
All right. So on the if you have something to chip in, thank you.
I think one thing that I wanted to add about like researching for scholarships, if you want to like some of the time, like you waste time like going to the internet, be like trying to search for scholarships. But if you're sure about the particular program that you want, sometimes what happens in these websites, I know for Cambridge, when you go into the particular department that you want, they'll always have like a page on funding. That way you could understand or like see different links to what fundings are available for that particular program. So that could help you cut down on the research that you'd have to do, because then you'll understand what's the funding that's happening. And even there, they post the kind of days that are available for all of those things. So always make sure you're thoroughly going through the department that you want to apply to, go through the website, give yourself time, play around with different things to see what's happening. If it means, I'm sure a lot of them always have students or current graduate students that are there, hit them up. They always have their emails there, or they always have the admins or the people running the program. You could always email and ask about what scholarships they have, so that they could help you inform on the kind of scholarships that are there, so that you're not wasting time on other sections, but trying to narrow it down to that specific program and see what funding is there. Yeah.
Someone is asking how easy is it to secure master admission scholarship in the UK? You see, there's nothing in this world that is easy. You just have to put in your own effort. But what we believe is that with the guidance we're going to be giving you, if you come on board the mentoring scheme, then you'll be able to compete favorably and then increase your chances of getting the scholarships. So like Chioma pointed out on the Slack channel, if you have subscribed for the mentorship scheme, if you've not, go to the website, go to AODI website. If you move there, you see the mentoring section, click on there, you will see a link that will allow you to subscribe. That will add you on the Slack platform. On a long run, we are trying to build a community around the AODI website. So you're going to have a social platform where you can interact with each other there. So it's a long-term plan, but for now, we are using Slack to bring people together, to bring resources, be able to help you. We're going to have mentors, mentees, everybody's going to be in there. So please, and someone has asked if you can subscribe to AODI mailing list. So yes, if you move straight to the website, the first time you visit the website, there's going to be a pop-up that will request for you to subscribe to our newsletter. If you do that, you'll be able to get every single mailing email that we send out. So I would like to move to the last thing we are going to be discussing today, which is about scholarship options here in Cambridge and how you can prepare to nail your interview. And I will allow Chioma to lead that discussion.
Does that mean that University of Toronto people can leave?
No.
Yeah.
No, please don't. No. Yeah.
I'll just get some water, okay?
We need the Canadians, yeah. Okay, yeah. So we've talked about scholarship, and we've looked at Canada and the rest of the world. We've narrowed down how we can go about that process. But I just want to say that for most universities, one thing is common. That's just like Dozier said, if you get the admission, it puts you into the pool, you know, for scholarship as well. But now I'm going to just focus on Cambridge. Saying, okay, you've got 3 Cambridge scholars here. How do we apply to Cambridge? Let's start with the undergrads, yeah? So the undergraduate, so I'll just give you a brief around Cambridge. Cambridge and Oxford, they usually have different system from all, they have different system from all over the universe, in fact, the whole of the UK, we have a different system. And that means that it has a collegiate system. So in Cambridge, for instance, we've got 33 colleges and we've got departments. So for undergrads, you will be applying to the colleges. Put your application through the process. It will go through the scrutiny and selection process. And then the colleges, depending on what colleges you have put in there, would now pick their best candidates, right? It's the scholarship process I'm going to. The colleges will now have to pick their best candidates and shortlist them for funding. So it is now the college that would submit your application as an undergrad to the university for funding. So most undergraduate studies could either get maybe part funding, depending on where you're from, or full funding, or most colleges could have funding for the undergrads. But first, you have to go through a very serious process for undergraduate studies. You have to do the application, have a strong personal statement. And what they look at here is your significant academic achievements and potential for that course. And you also have to attend the interview. So for undergrads here, they don't just give you admission into undergraduate studies. You have to do the interview. You have to attend the college interview, and they do the selection and they put you into the pool. Now, international students funding is usually highly competitive. But then the good thing is Cambridge offers a lot of scholarship, considers students irrespective of their nationality. You know, wherever you're coming from, it doesn't matter where you're coming from, Cambridge offers those scholarships. So for postgrads now, there is also a funding deadline. You don't apply directly to the college. You get your potential supervisor who agrees to take you on. You fill in the application, go through the selection process. On the same form, on the same application form that you're trying to get admission for, there's also a column for you to tick in and write about the scholarships you want. Now, you also have to do a little research on the scholarship one, because there are different scholarships. So if you end up picking one for humanities or writing about one on humanities when that scholarship is only offered to science students, then you don't stand a chance. And if you don't tick the box that you want to be considered for scholarship, nobody considers you. And that's what another thing where I said you have to start early. Don't be in a rush. You see, just that small box can fail to tick, can cost you funding in Cambridge. You know, so you have to, while doing your application, you have to pay attention to a lot of details and tick the box to say you want to be considered for scholarship. Now that puts you in the pool. And then there's another section on your application form, the same application you're sending to the university for admission, that asks you to now write justification for that scholarship you want to take up. So it is based on that they will consider you. And again, your justification has to be strong and pay attention to it. So for instance, the Rowan Williams Scholarship here in Cambridge, it looks at people that have come from conflict zones, people who have gone through persecution, people who are suffering discrimination or any sort of violence. If they ask you to write the justification for being considered for this scholarship, and none of this highlights that, then you're not going to fall into that category. There is another scholarship for the Commonwealth, Cambridge Commonwealth. You also have to say why you need to be considered for that funding. So the whole scholarship opportunity in the University of Cambridge falls under the Cambridge Trust. So what it does, and that is where we also talk about being very competitive, what it does is that it pulls all the applications from all over the world, all the applications together, you would have gone to your department and you'd have been selected by your department. Your department will now be the one to send your name that, oh, this is a strong applicant. We think it can go to the degree committee. The degree committee will also send it, you know, if they approve it. And then they rank it. So they don't rank it based on they don't give this category of people. They rank it around the world. So they are looking at the first 250. The first 250 strong applications that make it to Cambridge automatically gets scholarship, full funding for their PhD, you know. So there is also the Gates one. The Gates Cambridge is also the one funded by Bill Gates, is a very prestigious one, as well as others like the Cambridge Africa Scholarship, but they require something extra. And what it requires is that they want to see your academic excellence, they want to see your fit for the program, they want to see any leadership, your leadership potentials, because they believe that they want to build a world of new leaders, a generation of new leaders that can go on to take up this responsibility and also help their communities, you know, and they want to see how much you have given back to your community, your volunteering. So some scholarships have specific things they are looking for. But in all of this, what is strong is that they'll be looking at your academic qualification. They'll be looking at your research potentials. They'll be looking at your references. That is where references is key. If you know what is good for you, just as I knew what is good for me, you know who can write you a very good reference, right? Please target those ones. I've been in the lab with PIs, maybe during discussion or when we are just talking about, they are analyzing a candidate and they're like, oh, I don't have money I just got a strong application and a strong review from this student, this potential student. The student looks very strong. I don't have the funding for it. And the reference is really, really great. That's to tell you that they pay a lot of attention to the sort of reference that is being sent for you. So don't just get someone that will write you a 2-line reference. Oh, Chioma was the best in her class. She scored the highest. Please consider her and get back to me for any further inquiry. That would not sell. That would not sell. I'm sure OK is on the line and OK would understand how we went through this process and how he was of much help to it. Yeah, so that would not sell. Your references is key. Who writes your reference is very important. So in summary, Cambridge has a lot of funding. Cambridge has funding from the Cambridge Trust. It has the Gates Scholarship. Your colleges can also give you funding. So in Cambridge, the funny thing is that you don't just get admitted into the department alone. You have to also get admitted into the college. So you're on 2 places. You know, the college has to accept you. Your department has to accept you. You can also look through the colleges. Some colleges offer scholarship for specific courses or for matured students or for any category. Look through those colleges and see which one is best for you. Departments have funding. Some departments have funding. The Central University also has its funding. You know, there are some that are targeted at females. I just saw that recently. It's called the Deep Mind Cambridge Scholarship. But obviously, it's for Black female or Black applicants, students, you know, but you have to be going for a degree in advanced computer science. So those are the sort of things to look out for. Yeah, I'll just stop there so that I don't take the whole time.
Okay, so so it doesn't look as if we are talking about just Cambridge. I'm also going to talk about just a brief about Cambridge, but let's allow Toronto to come in. And yeah, Dozie, tell us something about Toronto. Scholarship options that you've got there. But I think you've actually mentioned this.
Yeah, he has. I was just saying, okay, since we're talking about the Cambridge, if you want me to go on to the preparing for interview so that we can take questions quickly.
We can actually start bringing people in because we have actually kind of done what we're supposed to do. So guys, what I'm going to do now is that I am going to share a link with you. If you would like to join us right in here, you can click one of those links. Any of these links that I have shared, you'll be able to come in here to talk to us and then be able to interact with those. But before then, I would like to play a couple of videos. That's about my college here, Wolfson College. Sorry, apologies that I have
refuse. Anya, what do you say?
Please, no.
Yes.
No.
The reason why I'm talking about Wolfson College is because it's the most internationalized college here in Cambridge.
Thank you for sharing.
I'm going to just show a little thing about what the community here at
You have the
Roasted
floor.
looks like. Okay, so just watch this while we come back.
One word. These questions.
For me, it would be family.
Oh, that's a good one.
Family. Community.
Supportive? Yeah, supportive.
I'd say home, and I know that sounds awesome, but every time, you get so stressed in exams when you leave and you come back and it's like,
it is.
Home.
It is.
I feel very at home here.
There is no way for you to not feel at home here, to be honest.
It's not a home away from home, it is just plain home.
So the community at Wolfson is exceptionally diverse. We have people from so many different countries and backgrounds.
Hi everyone, my name is Dan, I'm from Brazil.
Hello, I'm Michaela, I'm from South Africa.
I'm Arjun, I'm from Singapore.
And I'm from the United States.
I am from the Philippines.
I'm originally from Yorkshire.
I'm from Shropshire. I'm from Mexico.
I was born in Washington, D.C., but actually grew up all over the world. I spent 6 years in Cote d'Ivoire, West Africa, and 10 years in Tunisia before going back to the US.
I'm from Montreal, so I'm French Canadian.
I come from Jerusalem, Israel.
We have so many different people from different countries, different nationalities, different ethnicities.
Yeah. I really don't know a country from which I haven't met someone.
It's like traveling around the world a little bit.
Everybody is also from somewhere else.
Yes.
Because it's such an international community.
Yeah. But you get so many more interesting conversations with people from wherever, and you also get really good holidays. I'm going to Jordan next month to visit a wolf.
A wolf. To be honest with you guys, all my friends are very jealous of me. They come to the BOPs, invite them to our events, right? The BOPs, the speaker series, Science Society, Humanities Society, they're always here. And I'm like, you should have chosen Wolfson. Because they feel so welcome. They literally feel as though they're at home. There's no hierarchy, there's no false elitism. This idea of being in Cambridge, they still have formal halls, which is actually really fantastic. We still have traditions, right, that all Cambridge colleges share. But we have this, hint of, right, modernity, right, openness, right, relaxed nature. That is, for me, the best of both worlds. I wouldn't be happier anywhere else, to be honest. I'm always very thankful, right, for being here. It's a very difficult process, the application and everything, but I chose Wolfson, my number one pick, and I have zero regrets. So apply to Wolfson, you'll love it.
Okay.
Guys, I know Wolfson is great, right? But Churchill is greater, so just ignore.
No, people, Trinity, anything Trinity speaks money.
Okay, don't worry. We have amazing colleges here in Cambridge. They are
Sorry,
great.
David, one thing struck me, and just to match it up with someone's question there. When you showed the parts of the family, and someone asked the question, put it on the comment link there, that how do we all try to balance it, it's more like a work-life balance. They think that this is something that can be done, that it's not doable. So I think if we should just I think it's gone over. We might not be able to find the comments. It's one of the early comments. But like I would say, it's doable. You just have to, it's not like every day is work. It's not 24 hours in the lab or 24 hours work. You still have your friends. You still have to socialize. You still have your out of lab work to do, friends to meet up with. I've got my family here and my kids as well. So so if I can do it, any one of you can do it. So don't let that limit you from achieving your dreams, okay?
Okay, so we have our first guest on board. Ken, you are welcome. You are welcome. It's good to have you here, Ken.
Thank you very much,
Hey,
Jokes.
salute.
Greetings, everyone.
Yeah, I've been seeing your chats popping up and your advice or suggestions and all this.
First, I want to appreciate you guys for bringing up this idea. It's very wonderful. Yeah, because I know it's something that just didn't come up. This is a product of lots of experience and the love for the African community. So I appreciate this.
All right, thank you very much. It's good to have you here.
you.
Our plan is to keep on doing this. Like this today, we are trying to kind of look at every angle of the whole thing, but 2 hours is not enough to have a detailed treatment of each section of what application means.
Right.
Okay, because it could take 1 hour to talk about only personal statement, writing a recommendation letter, and processing things you need to do. So hopefully, the idea is that subsequently we want to reach out to African scholars who are doing exploits in their respective fields, be it in the UK, Canada, US, wherever they are, bring them on board. So apart from getting specific identity of what it is like to apply for funding for admission in their respective universities, we also want to get the perspective of that country in total. So it would be nice. Hopefully, next we are going to extend the invitation to you to come.
Yeah. That's nice.
And
No,
just
saying,
for
please, can I have your
Chioma,
question? Sorry?
I was just about to say, so for Chioma and One, you guys don't know Ken. So Ken went to UNN as well. He was like the wizard of the whole mathematics department back in the day. And he's completing his PhD in France now. So Ken, it's wonderful to have you here. Like Chuk said, it would be nice to have Ken on the platform as well, sharing his own experience, because I mean France is different from, I know it's also in Europe,
very different.
I know the system is different. So it would be nice to also have a different perspective from someone like from Ken.
I'm always at your service.
Boss.
Yeah.
Okay, just there's a question here. This person is saying, do age and previous PhD matter in getting a PhD scholarship? Previous PhD might affect you. For instance, in Cambridge, if you've done a PhD before, you want to come back and repeat another PhD, that might work against you, but age will not work.
So there are people like that want to do 2 PhDs. Hey, God.
No, I would say, okay, what I'm going to say about this is that don't underestimate the power of what you have already done. If you have a PhD already, my advice would be look into a postdoc position. Package whatever you have done properly, that area of interest. There could be a lot of people that are looking for postdocs to come onto their research groups. You don't have to, if you don't have the funding, if you have the funding to do a second PhD, that is absolutely fine. Please go for it. If you want to have 4 PhDs and you have the funding, please go for it. But if you do not, I would say the best part for you, especially if you want to get into academia, is to practice for a postdoc position. And there are a lot of postdoc positions that are advertised online as well. Yeah, age would not really stop you from getting a scholarship, per se, except if the scholarship actually says it's going to consider people within this age bracket. But if they are considering people from developing countries, low and middle income countries, they know that we don't achieve things at the same age or at the same level as they do in the Western world. For instance, you might see someone who has finished the undergrad starting their PhD at 21, 22. You could be and then you could be 38, you could be 40, you could be, it doesn't really matter, So just like I would say again, don't let anything stop you if you have to.
Okay, if I can say something to this respect, I first will say in my lab, I'm the oldest. So age is not a problem, but like you said, depends on the scholarship. But when you say age, sometimes we look at age of your MSc certificate, I mean for those going for PhD. Because sometimes when the gap between when you got your MSc and when you're applying for a PhD is, let's say, above 4 years, like some European scholarship, you see that it is assumed that you've not been, how do I say it, active. Yeah, so let me use that word. So age could be maybe age of your degree at the time of application, but when you say age, like your real age, I doubt if that is really a problem.
Yes. Ken had just made a wonderful point there.
Yeah.
You see, the gap between when you finish your final degree and when you want to enter the new degree is very important.
Yeah.
If you have a gap, it's not a problem, but the question is, in that gap, what are you doing?
Good.
So you need to maybe in your CV or your personal statement, make sure that there is somewhere, whoever is reviewing your application will figure out what you've been doing in that gap year. So the gap year here, in fact, while I was in Japan, there were a whole lot of people who, after their undergrad, they will consciously take a gap year. I tell them, what do you want to do with this gap year? They say, I want to use 1 year to do volunteering.
Yeah.
Some of them, to be honest, it's not just that they wanted to do that. Japan has a system whereby every April there is usually a recruitment, Hawaii nation recruitment by companies. So if you don't succeed in getting a job, you have two options. It's either you move over and start doing a master's program, or you can try to engage yourself with something else. Because if you don't do anything, the next application round for job, it will be difficult for you to get a job because you're no longer a fresh graduate. So what people usually do in order to make sure that when they apply next year for a job or whatever it is, they don't have difficulties convincing the employer, is to pick up some volunteering jobs, some internship somewhere to get themselves busy. So what you do between that gap here is very, very important. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Weke said, that's exactly what I need. I have written to so many prospective supervisors in Canada, and I've given up at some point. So that's exactly what Dozier complained about. Yeah. You can see writing 33 letters to supervisors. Don't give up, Weke. Don't give up. Please continue writing. I'm very sure what we can do, like Dozier have offered to share the template of how you can structure these letters that you are writing. So it's probably you're not making it interesting. To be honest, the research I'm doing right now, it's not my supervisor's field. Okay. The thing is that my supervisor has the skill set computationally to probe the system I'm working with. But he's never worked on that system before. But he accepted to supervise me, and that is because I was able, during my interaction with him, to show him how I can use the expertise that he has to probe this new system. And right now, it's becoming a very interesting project. So you need to find a way to link up what you have to what they have. Okay. So
Yeah, I just
Chioma,
saw something that One, sorry, just because we're running out of time, One might want to answer that in terms of having published papers before you apply for master's degree.
Oh, I think for me, yeah, there's just the same problem that I had, or like maybe the same worry that I had. But what I was deliberate about was knowing that I didn't have like the enough experience to publish, or like enough workings with my supervisor to work on a paper and publish with her. So what I did, I made sure that the kind of essays that I was doing in my modules, because I made sure to like work on gender, work on African studies. So those are the kind of writing samples that I had. And I made sure my supervisor knew the kind of work that I was interested in. So by the time they write your recommendation letter, they're able to articulate that, fine, you may not have the privilege or the skills or the platform to publish, but the work you've been doing has been on that field. And these are the kind of arguments, these are the kind of skills or the kind of interesting perspectives you're bringing to the table. So for me, I hadn't published anything, but that didn't stop me from applying. So you never lose anything with applying, but also you need to be building a really good, strong relationship with your recommenders so that they're able to articulate why you're best fit for the program. Because I didn't even present anywhere, and the only presentation or like scholarship that I got was to go present in Glasgow, and that was on my undergrad dissertation. And I hadn't published anything before, right? And at that conference, I was the only undergrad student. So don't put yourself off. As Chioma said, always apply. Don't say no to yourself before they say no to you. You never lose anything by applying, putting your first foot forward. It's always been deliberate about making sure you're tailoring your CV, your application, and what you're doing, the activities and everything, building up to that moment where you say, this is why I'm the perfect candidate for the program because I've did 1, 2, 3. And even me, I didn't get a first class. I missed the first class, I think, by 1%. So, but I'm still at Cambridge. So it's, yeah.
Yes, thank you for pointing out that first class issue. So a whole lot of people also think that probably the only people who come to places like Cambridge or get funding are people who made first class. It's not true. I have seen some people here in Cambridge, apart from One who just mentioned it, who do not have first class. They have 2-1s, okay? But they were able to tailor the application to kind of interest whoever is reviewing those applications. So you mustn't have first class for you to be able to get scholarship. If you have, yes. And to be honest, there are a whole lot of people who have applied to Cambridge who have first class with very strong GP, but they were not offered admission. So you need to understand all this.
You can have a strong GP, but not a strong application.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just show your strength, right? Just show your strength wherever you have the greatest strength. If it is something, a skill set you have developed while helping out in the lab or doing your final year project, just use your strengths. Make sure you put your best foot forward, and leave the other ones. Don't even talk about the fact that you don't have that one. Let them be the ones to look for it, but don't shoot yourself first. Yeah, I just saw another question there.
Is it this?
Or any of you? Yeah, so this.
Yes.
Yes, some departments don't display professors with funding. Are there other ways to search for this with respect? Okay, so I doubt. Okay, there are only few programs where the on the website you see, oh, I have funding, come. All right, nobody's gonna do that. Okay, nobody's gonna do that. All right, start coming, I have funding. No, right? So one of the ways you know that professors have funding is some of them go through the route of advertising positions in their lab. Okay, so some people literally say, oh, I have, and this happens mostly for new professors, people who just became assistant professors and they just need students, they just got money, and they're just on the tenure track. They need people to work out so that they can get papers, and they're like, oh, I have positions in my lab, come and apply. So that's one way you could know. And Chioma had said something very important about going through some newsletters and some websites that are able to particularly show you these positions. I remember when I used to go to nature jobs and nature positions, they'll particularly show you, oh, this professor has funding and then wants new students or wants postdoc or whatever it is that's in position. But for the most part, nobody tells you that. How do you get to know? The question is, how do you know? Write to the professor. Write an email to the professor. Tell him that you're interested in his lab. All of those things we talked about previously as to approaching a prospective supervisor. In the letter, when you express your interest, and for the most part, many of these people, when they want to respond to you, they respond to you very honestly because they don't want to raise your hopes and then later on they don't give it to you. Most of them would tell you, some of them would even tell you, I think I like you, I think you have a good application, and I think you'll be a good fit for this lab. But at this time, I do not have funding. Some of them would even go ahead to tell you that, oh, I applied for funding, I'm expecting it. If it comes out positive, then I could include you, in. So you get to know these things, all right? You get to know these things when you write to them. For the most part, you're not going to really have people. Now, in my department, so the last thing I want to say is, in my department of molecular genetics, and I must say my department is a very, very arranged department. Thankfully, we have a wonderful chair, a woman. This is why many women should be in the place of authority. I find them to be more careful. A woman who is very, very careful at putting things right. And recently we started having the options of people, if professors are able to take students or not. All right. So some professors are able to take students within a particular academic year. So you see there's an option in the faculty. When you go to the faculty page on the website, you see accepting students. You see for some they write yes, and for some they'll say no. But those that say no, it's either they don't have funding or their labs are to capacity, are full to capacity. So these are some of the things that you get to know. And this whole thing it becomes a research skill. Finding the right scholarship, finding the right supervisor, it's a skill that you tend to build over time. So with time, you get to know this.
Yeah, just to add, thank you very much, Dozie. That was really clear. Just to add that you don't have to come on. Some supervisors might not have funding, but the university would have funding for you. So don't always wait for only supervisors that have funding. Some don't have, some will not have the funding to take you on. They will not pay you directly. It means that your funding body maybe might be the ones paying. Maybe if it's a research council or the trust or whatever body might be the ones paying you for that. Yeah. There's something else.
Okay, so here we have Blessing. Blessing, thank you for joining us. Yeah, like I told you guys, you don't need to kind of engage us in the analysis. Just come on board, ask your question. We want to interact with you, and then we can start discussing that while other people who are there listening, we kind of learn from what we are discussing. So, Blessing, do you have any questions for us?
Hi, Blessing.
Okay, your audio is kind of.
Maybe check your audio again.
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's faint.
Okay, maybe I will just try to read your questions in the chat box.
Yeah,
We'll find it.
Yeah, we can hear you now. You can talk.
Okay, so the reason I decided to join the online to ask a question is with regards to something that was just mentioned a few minutes ago. So actually, I've been able to participate in so many scholarship applications. And once I asked a friend to help me differentiate between, because when you check for some laboratories, you're going to see that there are assistant professors, associate professors, and then the professors themselves. So a certain time I asked someone to advise me on the category of professors to actually apply to. And the person actually told me that assistant professors are people who just like, they just got their own labs, like I think they just mentioned. So I want to know, if I'm sending out these applications, should I include assistant professors too, or should I just limit my applications to professors and associate professors?
Okay, I could come in first. So these things can go either way. But my experience.
Sorry, do you want to mute her first? Because it's echoing.
Huh?
You want to mute her first before you go on with your answer.
Okay, so these things can come either way. My experience in Japan and now in the UK shows that when you have a large laboratory, you can have the main boss who makes the entire decision, and then you have associate professors and assistant professors under them. But it doesn't happen this way across the entire globe. There are places where you go, and those who are actually associate professors have their own lab, and they'll be able to supervise you. And people who you are even calling assistant professors, they can be people who are just beginning, starting up their own research laboratory, and they're also looking for people to kind of supervise. So there is no one straightforward way. It depends on both university, which country it is. You need to figure out what it is. There's no harm in emailing all of them. But if you see that this is one lab and there is the members and there is associate professors, then the thing is that it's obvious the main decision lies with the boss. But sometimes, like in my laboratory in Japan, while I was there, we were over 50 people in there. Then you have Professor Yamashita, who is the members, and then you have associate professors who supervisors, but they have different fields of areas of specialization. People are working on MOFs, people are working on single molecule magnets, completely different people. Who makes the decision on whether to supervise you is the main boss, okay? But if you email one of these people and they think your application or your application is strong enough, they want to work with you in their focus, they can talk to the main boss. So there is no straightforward ways of doing this. You can always try everything out. So I don't know if someone else have. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have something to say very briefly. So I would personally say that it all depends on you. So what Chooks explained, it obtains very differently here. So here, an assistant professor has his own lab, whether you're associate, assistant, a full professor, you all have your different labs. I think that you have to basically think about yourself first, all right? What kind of environment, research environment do I want to be in? All right. There is a general perception, and this perception is just general. It may not necessarily be true, but the general perception is that, assistant professors and associate professors who are still on their track to being fully tenured, right? So there is what we call the tenure track, and that is when you know that your job is like fully secure in the university. And one of the ways to get through to that is, apart from your years in service, is that you need an appreciable number of papers, appreciable number of publications. All right. So for the most part, the general perception, like I said, this might not be necessarily true, but it obtains mostly from many people's testimonies, is that assistant professors and associate professors tend to probably work you more. All right, because they need to work you more so that you can get out papers, because it's beneficial for you and for them as well. All right. Now, if you're somebody, for example, who has strong research capacity, and you're able to do independent research for yourself or by yourself, all right, you might be okay being in a lab that is laid back. All right. And if you want to think about labs that are more laid back, they are mostly labs that have much older professors. They're laid back because, one, they're much older. Older people are just generally more laid back. And secondly is that, I mean, most of them probably have like hundreds of publications already. They're there. I mean, they still publish, but they're not going to push you as that guy who just has 5 publications and who still wants to go. All right. So I think this is why it is important for you to know what basically fits you. And some professors are still like 60, but they are still busting. There's a professor in my department, for example, he's like in his late 50s. This guy has a company. This guy has a lab full. His lab is like 40 man full. He's got like 20 postdocs. So people like that are just crazy. They're crazy. They can email you like at 2 a.m. in the morning, and they expect you to respond to them. All right. So you just really need to know, what fits you and what works for you. So I just gave you a general perception, but at the end of the day, it's about what you want.
All right. Thank you very much for that insight. Does any other person have something? I can take
another question down there. There's another question down there. How to?
Bless you, wanted to say something?
Yes, please. Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. But I want to ask, when sending out these emails to these professors, because what I normally do, and unfortunately I've just been getting the rejection mails. When sending out these emails, I don't know who mentioned something about, like, she actually quoted me. You just say, okay, my name is this. I'm currently doing this. I've gone through your research interest, and I think I'm interested to have you supervise me. And then, I just get replies saying, actually, yeah, they're actually very sincere. I've gotten replies which implies that they actually went through, because I normally attach my academic transcript and curricular detail. So I normally get replies which make me understand that, okay, they've actually gone through what I submitted, and it's probably not in line with what they're doing. Or some even go ahead to tell me outrightly that they are not recruiting any graduate students at the moment. So my question is this, please. When writing these emails, what exactly am I supposed to do with the body of the mail? Which kind of documents am I expected to attach to get these guys to actually probably get interested?
Okay, yeah. I can chip in a little before other people can say
something. Wants to answer. Onetu wants to answer.
Okay, let's give Onetu the go.
Okay. I think from my perspective, I'm not a science person, but like when applying I think one of the things, like in the first part of the email, introduce yourself, who you are, what you want to apply for, and make sure you don't just say, oh, hi, One, I feel like you can be a great supervisor because my work fits with you. Be specific as to why and how, right? What have they done in the field that's fitting onto you? What do you think is interesting about that work when you put into dialogue with yours, right? Maybe they have done some research about something and you want to like interrogate that or look into that or add onto it or like look at it from a different perspective. And also like attest a research, as Chioma was saying, either a summary or like, but mostly like to put your best foot forward, always have a research proposal ready or like a whole framework of like what you're thinking is around that, so that you're just not sending an email and your CV, because any other student can do that. But if you have your CV ready, if you have your transcript ready, if you have your research proposal ready and they can go through it, then they're able to understand that, okay, fine, this is how your work fits into mine. So you end up showing and not telling them or describing and be like, yeah, I feel like, because they can tell from a mile away that either you've read either one paper or like you're just quoting that CV from the internet, right? So always make sure it's specific to you and what it will add on to, because they've been writing for years. They can just see what you just picked up one article and you're like, oh, you read the abstract and you're just trying to like bullshit them, and they can like, no, it's not gonna work. So if you want someone to invest in, make sure you're putting in the work to do the proper research proposal and understand what it is exactly they're arguing and pick that niche that will add on to your narrative, I think. And then let them know like, okay, I'm open to a call if you have any other further questions and all of that. But the body of the email should be like, okay, why they fit into your research and why would they be able to guide you? They might not understand or like be the person to do your thing. Because for me, my supervisor, what they had was experience in West Africa, West African politics, in human trafficking and human rights, but they were not specifically into gender or the thing that I wanted to do. But because they had that experience and understanding of the framework that I wanted, they could better advise or critique my work but guide me and also just give me the space to learn without encroaching on my idea, right? Yeah. I think that was it.
I don't know if I can say something.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, for me, I think I have a totally different experience because Dozie said he made more than, I think, 33 applications. Mine is over 50.
Okay.
And at a point between 2016 and 2019, at the point I got used to rejections. Like if I see an email, I say, oh, they rejected me. But the truth of the matter is that you just need to appeal to the conscience of whoever you're writing to. Funny enough, what I'm doing right now in France is different from what I've ever studied in my life. My bases have been pure mathematics, but here in France, I'm in computer science, something different from what I've done before. But this was possible because I could structure my statement of purpose, as they call it, to appease this person, because I felt I had every tool needed to carry out research in this area. I haven't studied what they are actually doing. My only deficiency was the programming aspect, which I believe as a mathematician, I can always fight my way through. So basically, you just have to structure your proposal to appease whoever you're writing to. And for me, my lab is, do I say, one of the biggest labs here in France. And we have about 8 departments in this lab, and each of these departments have about 5 sub-departments. So it's a very big lab. But when I applied to these people, in quote, I just chose the person who I have gone through what he's been doing, and I felt I can do this. And then, funny enough, the lab accepted me before he even said anything. So sometimes you just need to spend more time believing in yourself first, because we can do all things. And then secondly, tailoring your proposal towards appealing the conscience of whoever you're writing to.
Yeah, just to add to that, you're tailoring the conscience, but you're not begging. You're not.
No, you're not begging. No. That's why I said we can do all things. We are so powerful.
You're not going to sound like, if you don't give me this now, I'm going to die. No, you're not going to sound like that.
No.
One other thing that would be good.
Sorry to cut you. Funny enough, your supervisor needs you more than you need him.
Exactly. And other times having that background skill, like you said, I think it's something we didn't really, sorry, we're running out of time. Oftentimes, it might not be exactly what you studied for your first degree that you're going for a master's or PhD. It might not be exactly that thing, but you want to see that you've got the background, that foundational skills. Like if you've done something that is related, it mustn't be closely related, but you just want to say that you have skills and you're teachable. I remember during my interview, when I was having my interview, and they asked if I'd done bioinformatics, because I was going to need a lot of bioinformatic tools to be able to answer the questions I needed. And of course, as you would know, undergrad teaching does not really cover that so much in Nigeria. I did say no, I didn't. You have to be honest. I did not have, but I'm willing to learn. And he said, yeah, they are going to teach me if I'm willing to learn. Another thing you should be open to is flexibility. You know, sometimes you might, and the common thing here, maybe when you meet master students that have come with their own initial original idea, or PhD students that come up with their own original ideas, there's a possibility that that interest might change within that 1 year. So you have to be willing to be flexible. If things are not working, you won't take your gun to say, I must do this. If I don't do this, I have to keep changing. No, you have to be flexible. I made a mistake during my first interview, and I'll tell you. So during the first interview here, they're asking me, I applied to work on something else, and then I was really interested. Like, that was my passion. I really have to go for this. And the PI, the person who I applied to work with, didn't have space for more students. And he said, I have a colleague. I think your research is interesting. I have a colleague who I'll pass you on to. So I had someone else that came on. They came on board the interview as a potential supervisor. But you know the mistake I did? I did not read that guy's recent papers. Do you understand? I read his recent papers before I went for that interview. I'd made up my mind that, okay, this is what I was going to do. And I was going with the mindset that if this person is accepting to interview me, then that's his area. I did not take the time to read through. And that was the biggest mistake I made the first time. So when he was asking, are you willing to work on this? I don't currently have funding for this, but what if we go through this process? I was thinking in my mind that if I say that I'll change, then he'll say he will not take me anymore. But that was the area he had funding for. You know, he couldn't just switch it just because of me to change the entire the grant, you know. So learn to be flexible. That's what I would say. And if you put a very strong proposal, who would not want to take you on if they think you're going to win a Nobel Prize with your research? Every supervisor, everybody will want to take you on. Like if you have that groundbreaking idea, put it forward. Even if the person doesn't have funding, I'm telling you, they will look for money for you. So yeah, just please prepare, yeah, and you will get it.
Okay, just a fast one. There was a question where we already ran out of time, and I will be wrapping up in less than 3 minutes from now. But just to take this quick question, this is a dear graduate assistantship position in Cambridge. Actually, Cambridge doesn't do graduate assistantship. So what happens is that if you have your offer, you have your funding, then if you're a PhD, for instance, you can help out in supervisions, in practical lab demonstrations and all that. So they don't have the system like in Canada, whereby you are a graduate assistantship and you are being paid for doing that. Okay, so for Cambridge, your funding is different from whatever it is the role of the graduate assistantship is going to be. And then we have one last question. I'm going to take this last one and then we can wrap
There's an
up.
interesting one here, like Adora, I think.
What's the question? I can see.
Yeah, she said that concerning research proposals, what happened?
Okay, I've seen this. That is this, right?
Yeah.
Concerning research proposals, what happens when you don't have any, but an open-minded and keep your options open? I mean, could you get admitted and find out you are interested in something other than what you submitted as a research proposal?
Can I respond to that?
Okay, to be honest, I think it depends on what you're going for, if it's master's or PhD. You actually changing your mind, there is nothing like open-minded when you are making your application. You have to make a decision. The only thing that could happen is, for instance, in that your research proposal, to be honest, in most situations, when you come on board, like a typical Cambridge, you might not even continue with that research. Your supervisor might allow you. For instance, while I was having my interview, with my supervisor, and I was explaining everything I was doing and what I would want to do when I come to Cambridge. So there was something he told me. He said, yeah, we're going to try what you are describing. However, if this is not working, will you be happy for us to move into another direction? And I said, yes, I'll be happy to do that. Okay. But you coming with open-minded, you are trying to convince someone that you are coming to do something that will be beneficial. So that's open-mindedness could work against you. Yeah, Ojobor.
Yeah. So actually, it works differently where I am in Canada. So, and I think this is why it's important that we're having this conversation. So in Canada, actually, you are actually encouraged to be open-minded. Now, especially in certain programs. So like I had mentioned previously, so my program, we have what we call the rotation system, whereby when you come into a PhD program, you are not coming in, you don't know the lab you're joining yet until you rotate for 5 weeks across each lab. So while you're rotating through each lab, the idea is you're trying to get an idea what the lab is, how the lab environment is, if you like the people in the lab. And trust me, you don't want to be with people you don't like for 5 years. So you want to know if you like them. You want to know if the supervisor style fits yours. So if your supervisor is somebody who micromanages and you're somebody who's a little bit more laid back, then that's not a good fit. So all of those things you want to know. So by the time you have gone through 15 weeks, then you decide on the lab you want to join. So you then make we have a ranking system. You pick your first, second, and third lab. So you pick your first lab and then you go to the supervisor and you say, having rotated in your lab, I do love the research, I love the lab dynamic and all that, and I want to join. If he finds you interesting enough, because remember, as you're rotating, other graduate students are also rotating, all right? So he's also ranked you guys. So if he finds you interesting enough, then you can join his lab. So at the end of the day, they encourage, like I'm in molecular genetics, but we have under molecular genetics, we have systems biology, we have microbiology and infectious disease, we have bioinformatics, we have, so people can rotate in different labs doing different things. And at the end of the day, they will just decide where they want to go, and if the supervisor finds them interesting. And at the end, most of the time, like my class of 2015, we were like 60 something, and all of the people who eventually got a lab to stay in. So I think it's important that you know what obtains where you're going, and then you play according to the rules.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Dozie. Just sorry, David, as well. There's this other question we skipped, and it was about writing IELTS and GRE and TOEFL. I know the situation is different. Dozie, do you want to highlight on that as well?
Yeah. So so personally, coming to University of Toronto, I thought because University of Toronto is like the #1 school in Canada. So I thought I was going to get all of that, these, that. I did not have to write TOEFL. I did not have to write IELTS, neither did I have to write GRE. So what I understand about how the admission programs work here is different departments have different criteria. So the idea is look at your department, look at what your department requires. And some department actually give concession to certain people who are coming from certain countries. For example, I mean, a lot of Nigerians have shown that they're proficient in English, both in writing and in speaking. And so a couple of departments are fine excusing you from doing IELTS or any exam. In Canada, GRE is not such a big thing. GRE obtains mostly in the US. So here, I didn't have issues with that. So it's department specific.
Okay, thank you very much for that wonderful contribution, everyone. So I think it's time for us to wrap up. So I'll kind of give each and every one of us here maybe 30 seconds to say goodbye to our audience. Yeah, let's start with Chioma.
I didn't want to go first. I wanted to go last. Goodbye. All right. Yeah. So I think it's been it's been an amazing to us interacting and conversing with these great minds, brilliant minds, and for all our engaging audience. Just said it's a very, very interesting reading all your comments. But my last words for you would be that you shouldn't give up on your dreams, no matter the hitches, no matter what you're passing through right now. Just see those as stepping stones. masters, PhDs are all learning processes. They don't expect you to be an expert when you come here. They want you to be teachable and to be able to learn. And they know that you'll be learning. So don't just give up on yourself before they say no. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Dozie, do you have anything to tell us?
Yeah, I mean, just keep doing what you need to do to get to where you need to get to. All right. The rejections are important in your life. They are stepping stones to you getting to where you need to get to. And so when they come, take them, keep doing what you need to do. And obviously reach out to people who you consider to be mentors. Do not be ashamed to share your story, because your stories are so powerful and it could move a mentor to actually follow you up. So reach out to people. This is a wonderful platform, you know, and I believe Chooks is going to match certain people to certain mentors. Reach out to them and get all the help that you need to get. And good luck with your applications.
Thank you very much. Shone?
Oh, I think my last thing would be like, main thing, always like do your research, be prepared, because like understand that thousands of applicants are applying. Don't get caught up in your sub story, because everyone always has a sub story. So what is your story? How do you fit into your program, and what are you bringing into the program? What skills can you learn, and all of that. But always make sure you're doing the research, working hard, and like drafts and drafts and drafts and drafts of that application until you have the perfect draft that you think is putting your best foot forward and telling the story that you want. But it's always about hard work and research. Otherwise, you're just setting up yourself for failure. So yeah.
Sure. Kane, I'm sure you have something to tell us.
For me, I would just say, just like Dozie said, don't express too much humility in your in your applications, that thereby hiding your true potentials. Also, I would say we shouldn't be a joke whenever we want to take on serious path. Just like our sisters have said, lots of people are also making that same application. So try to express yourself in the best possible way, and also have an open mind. You know, for me, I've had lots of rejections. So rejection is part of it, and whenever it comes, just see it as a personality booster for yourself. Yeah.
All right. So, Blessing, do you have anything to tell us? Yeah, it could be what we could do to make this better. It could be just anything.
Yeah.
I
was actually thinking I was part of the audience you all were telling goodbye to. Anyway, I just want to use this opportunity to thank you guys so much. I want to say, with a platform like this, trust me, many people in my category who are looking to pursue graduate programs would not even want to give up. Like, there was an application I was making recently, and at the time I was like, you know what, I can't do this. But trust me, speaking with people like Chooks and a couple of other persons out there who are like you guys, it really kept me on my toes, and I was able to click the submit button. So thank you so much for these opportunities, and I look forward to more webinars as such, and I'm very sure that one day I will be like you guys. Thank you very much.
Rebecca, aim higher, please. You will be better.
So that is where we are going to be wrapping it up. But before we wrap up, I would like to just mention a few things. One, if you want to join the mentoring scheme, it is good for us to have an organized platform so that I don't continue to receive email every now and then. So if you visit, you can see on the live feed, the website link is popping up there. So visit the website if you're interested. Subscribe to that. We are going to add you to the channel where everything is happening. So please try to come on board. And if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel and our other social platform, please subscribe and then follow us. That is the only way you can get up to date with everything that is happening. We are going to be bringing you a whole lot of this. And in August, we are going to be having a big stage where we are bringing people from Cambridge Trust, Gates Cambridge, Cambridge admission team to come here on live stage to speak to you about applying specifically to Cambridge. We are also going to be doing that to other universities. Once you get a contact person in a particular university who can get us one or two persons, we bring them on board talk about the application process for that university. This is going to continue. Okay, so we are not giving up. This is the launch, and it's going to continue this way. We are not sure if it's going to be weekly or bi-weekly or once a month, but definitely it's going to continue. And please subscribe and remain and get in touch if you want. So thank you guys. Thank you. There are a whole lot of thank you popping up. So I'm just going to get all of them up here and then say good night, everyone, and good morning, depending on where you are. Good evening, good afternoon. I don't know, you have different time variations. So good whatever suits you wherever you are. And we are happy that we are able to engage you in this conversation and be able to say one or two things that will help you. So get in touch with us if you want anything with us. Thank you very much, and have a good